Virginia, 1856. The town of Black Hollow was the kind of place maps forgot on purpose. Tucked between dense pine forests and muddy back roads, it survived on whispered traditions and unspoken fears. People here believed silence was safer than truth. Before the story begins, consider subscribing and joining us for more untold stories. Elin Harper had lived in Black Hollow her entire life, yet that morning felt unfamiliar, wrong in a way she couldn't explain. The air was heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. At 26, Elin was known as quiet but observant. She noticed things others ignored. The way birds vanished before storms, how dogs refused to cross certain paths, how shadows lingered a second longer near the woods. Her mother used to say Elin had inherited her grandmother's listening eyes. That morning, the church bell rang late. No one questioned it. In Black Hollow, questions were dangerous. Elin stepped outside her small wooden home and noticed something unsettling. There were no sounds, no horses, no morning chatter, not even insects, only the faint creak of trees swaying without wind. Across the dirt road, Old Man Whitaker's house stood with its door wide open. Whitaker never left his door open, ever. Elin crossed the road slowly. Inside, the house was empty, but not abandoned. His coat still hung by the door. His breakfast sat untouched on the table, steam long gone cold. The fireplace ashes were fresh. It was as if he had simply vanished mid-moment. By noon, 2 more people were missing. No blood, no signs of struggle, just absence.
The town elders gathered at the church and spoke in low voices. Elin stood near the back, listening. Words like "again" and "too early" drifted through the room, followed by sharp looks whenever someone spoke too loudly. That was when Elin understood something terrible. This had happened before. Later that evening, Elin found a folded piece of paper slipped under her door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, jagged, hurried. "Do not follow the path after dusk. The forest remembers you." Her heart pounded. No one signed the note. As night fell, lanterns flickered across Black Hollow. Doors were locked, windows shuttered. The forest loomed closer than ever, its edge just beyond the last house like a waiting mouth. Elin should have stayed inside, but curiosity had always been stronger than fear. When the moon rose, pale and thin, Elin wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and stepped toward the tree line, toward the path everyone pretended did not exist. She didn't know it yet, but once she crossed that line, Black Hollow would never be the same, and neither would she, because something in the forest had already noticed her. Elin discovers why the elders fear the woods and what truly happened the last time people vanished from Black Hollow. The forest edge looked different at night. During the day, the trees of Black Hollow stood like ordinary pines, tall, quiet, almost harmless. But under moonlight, they leaned inward, their branches weaving together as if guarding a secret. The narrow dirt trail Elin remembered from childhood was barely visible now, swallowed by shadow. Every instinct told her to turn back. Instead, she stepped forward. The ground felt colder beneath her boots, damp in a way that clung to her soles. With every step, the sounds of the town faded, replaced by something harder to define, a low, distant hum, like breath moving through hollow bones. Elin lifted her lantern. That was when she noticed the markings. Carved into the trees were symbols, circles cut through with jagged lines, some deep and fresh, others old and cracked. These weren't random scratches, they were deliberate, repeated, intentional. Her grandmother had once warned her about signs like these. "Some marks are not meant to guide," she had said. "They are meant to keep things contained." A sudden snap echoed behind Elin. She turned sharply, lantern swinging. Nothing stood there. No animal, no man. Yet the feeling of being watched pressed against her chest, heavy and unmistakable. She moved faster now, the path sloping downward into thicker forest, where moonlight struggled to reach the ground. Then she saw it, a clearing. At its center stood the remains of a wooden structure, collapsed beams, rotting planks, and what looked like a stone foundation blackened by fire. The air smelled faintly of ash, though no flames burned. Elin stepped closer and froze. Bones lay scattered near the stones, not animal bones, human. Her breath caught in her throat. She had never seen death like this, unburied, forgotten, left as a warning or a sacrifice. A chill ran through her as she noticed something even worse. The bones were arranged, carefully, as if placed by someone who wanted them seen. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "You weren't supposed to come here." Elin spun around, heart racing. From behind a tree stepped Elias Crow, one of the town elders. His face looked older in the lantern light, carved with fear rather than age. He carried no lantern of his own, yet moved confidently through the dark. "You know about this place?" Elin said, her voice unsteady. Elias didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed fixed on the ruins. "This is where it began," he finally said, "and where it will end, if you leave now." Elin shook her head. "People are missing. Whitaker, the others. You knew this would happen." Elias turned to her, his expression hollow. "We didn't know it would choose you." The forest seemed to breathe in around them. Something moved beyond the trees, slow, deliberate, and far too large to be human. Elin felt it then. The path hadn't led her here by chance. She had been invited. The elder reveals the pact Black Hollow made with the forest, and why breaking it means unleashing something that has been waiting for decades. Elias Crow did not look at Elin when he spoke again. Instead, he lowered himself onto a fallen beam near the ruins, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of decades had finally caught up to him. The forest remained unnaturally still, as though listening. "This land wasn't always called Black Hollow," he said quietly. "Before the town, before the church, before any of us, it belonged to something else." Elin tightened her grip on the lantern. "What kind of something?" Elias exhaled slowly. "The kind you don't name unless you want it to answer." He explained that nearly 70 years earlier, settlers had arrived desperate and starving. Crops failed, livestock vanished, children fell sick without reason. The forest resisted them at every turn, reclaiming cabins overnight and twisting paths until men wandered in circles for days. Then people began to disappear, just like now. The settlers blamed animals at first, then strangers, then each other. Panic spread faster than hunger, and soon violence followed. According to Elias, the forest fed on that chaos, growing stronger with every death. That was when the elders made a choice. They followed an older trail, Elias said, one that didn't exist on any map. Elin's chest tightened. "This path?" He nodded. Deep beneath the roots of the forest, the settlers encountered what Elias called the listener, an ancient presence bound to the land itself. It did not speak in words, but in instincts, memories, and fear. It offered protection in exchange for balance, a life for many. Every generation, Black Hollow would give the forest what it demanded:
carefully chosen, quietly taken. In return, the town would survive, undisturbed, unnoticed, spared from greater ruin. Elin felt sick. "You're saying the missing people were sacrifices?" "Yes," Elias replied, "and no." She stared at him, waiting. The listener doesn't always take who we offer. Sometimes it chooses for itself. A distant sound rolled through the trees, low and resonant, like wood bending under immense pressure. Elias stiffened. "It's awake now," he whispered. "It knows the pact is failing." Elin stepped back. "Why now?" Elias finally met her eyes. "Because the last offering refused." Elin's mind raced. "Refused how?" "They ran, just like you're thinking of doing." Before she could respond, the ground beneath the clearing trembled, dirt shifted, roots cracked. From the shadows beyond the ruins, shapes began to form, long, twisted silhouettes moving between the trees without fully stepping into the light. Elin's breath grew shallow. "You said it wouldn't choose me," she said. Elias swallowed hard. "I said we didn't expect it to." The lantern flickered violently. Something unseen circled the clearing, close enough that Elin felt a sudden warmth brush against her skin, like breath against her neck. And in that moment, she understood the truth. The forest had not summoned her to be a witness. It had summoned her to replace the pact. Elin learns the terrifying role the forest has chosen for her and why escaping Black Hollow may cost more than her life. Elin ran. She didn't plan it, didn't think it through. Her body moved before her mind could argue. The moment the lantern flame sputtered out, darkness swallowed the clearing and panic took over. Branches scraped her arms as she pushed through the trees, guided only by instinct and the pounding of her heart. Behind her, the forest shifted. Roots rose from the ground like waking limbs, cracking the soil open. The air vibrated with a sound too deep to be called a growl, carrying through her chest and bones. Whatever followed did not hurry. It didn't need to. Elin burst onto the path and nearly collided with someone. Hands grabbed her shoulders, steady and urgent. "Quiet," a woman whispered. It was Martha Bell, the midwife. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, her eyes sharp despite the darkness. She pulled Elin off the path and into a narrow space between two massive trees where the shadows clung thicker. "You can't run from it," Martha said, "but you can move without being seen." Elin struggled to breathe. "You know about this?" Martha's mouth tightened. "I've known since I was a girl." She explained quickly. Every generation, one person was marked, not chosen by the elders, not offered willingly. The listener selected someone who could hear it, someone who noticed the quiet things. That person became the anchor, bound between the town and the forest.
"They don't die," Martha said. "Not right away." Elin shook her head. "What happens to them?" "They stay," Martha replied, "forever changed." A sudden pressure rolled through the woods, bending branches inward. The shadows stretched unnaturally long, creeping closer to their hiding place. Elin felt it again, the warmth, the awareness, as if the forest was touching her without touching her. "It's looking for you," Martha said softly. "I won't do it," Elin whispered. "I won't become part of this." Martha's voice hardened. "If you don't, Black Hollow will burn. The listener doesn't just take lives, it unravels everything that defies it." A shape moved across the path, tall, shifting, never fully solid. The trees leaned toward it, welcoming. Elin realized then that the forest wasn't hunting her in anger. It was reaching out in expectation. The ground beneath her feet pulsed, warm and alive, like a heartbeat answering another. Images flooded her mind, past anchors standing where she stood now, watching the town grow and decay while they remained, neither alive nor gone. Tears filled her eyes. "There has to be another way," she said. Martha hesitated. "There might be," she admitted, "but no one who tried it ever came back." The forest fell silent again, not waiting, listening. Elin is offered a forbidden choice, one that could break the pact entirely or condemn Black Hollow to a fate far worse than disappearance. Martha led Elin away from the main path, guiding her through a maze of trees that seemed to shift when not directly watched. The forest resisted them now, branches snagged at clothing, roots pressed upward like grasping fingers, and the air grew thick enough to taste. They stopped at a hollow oak split down the center, its interior burned black despite the damp soil surrounding it. "This is as close as I can take you," Martha said.
Elin glanced back. The town lights were gone. Black Hollow might as well have vanished from the world. Martha knelt and brushed away dirt at the base of the tree, revealing a flat stone etched with symbols older and deeper than the ones Elin had seen earlier. Unlike the others, these marks seemed worn smooth, as if touched again and again. "This is where the pact was sealed," Martha explained, "and where it can be challenged." Elin's stomach twisted. "You said no one returned." Martha nodded. "Because the forest doesn't punish defiance with death. It offers a test." The ground vibrated faintly, a warning more than a threat. "The listener binds itself through memory. If the anchor remembers the town, the forest holds it together. But if that memory is severed," she trailed off. "The pact breaks," Elin finished. "Yes," said Martha, "and everything it protects collapses." Elin closed her eyes. She saw Whitaker's empty house, the silent streets, children she had watched grow up. Breaking the pact might free future generations, but it would destroy the present one. "What's the test?" Elin asked. Martha hesitated, then pressed her palm against the stone. "The listener will offer you a vision, not a lie, not a threat, a truth shaped to tempt you." The air shifted instantly. Elin felt herself pulled inward, her senses stretching thin. The forest fell away, replaced by sunlight and open fields. Black Hollow stood restored and thriving, its people laughing, its homes untouched by fear. Elin stood among them, unchanged. "No sacrifices," a voice murmured, "no darkness, just life." The vision deepened. Elin saw herself older, surrounded by family, free of whispers and woods. Then the scene fractured. The fields rotted, buildings collapsed inward, swallowed by roots. Screams echoed as the forest reclaimed everything at once, violently and without mercy. The voice returned, colder now. "Choose what you remember."
Elin gasped as the vision released her. She dropped to her knees beside the stone, shaking. Martha watched her closely. "It showed you both outcomes?" Elin nodded. "If I forget Black Hollow, it survives without the pact, but I won't." "And if you remember," Martha said softly, "you become the anchor." The forest pressed closer, waiting for her answer. Elin stood slowly. "I won't let it decide for me," she said. The symbols on the stone began to glow. Elin makes a choice that reshapes the forest itself, and Black Hollow pays the price for every secret it kept. The symbols carved into the stone flared brighter, casting sharp light across the hollow oak. The ground shuddered beneath Elin's feet, not violently, but with intention, like something massive shifting its weight after a long sleep. Martha stepped back. It's begun. Elin felt the pull immediately. Memories surfaced without warning, dragged forward by an unseen force. Faces, voices, the smell of rain-soaked dirt outside her childhood home. Every moment she had ever known in Black Hollow rose up, demanding to be claimed or surrendered. The forest spoke, not in sound, but in pressure. Remember and remain. Forget and be free. Elin clenched her fists. You don't get to own what I am. The pressure intensified. Trees bent inward, their roots breaking through the soil, forming a circle around the stone. From the darkness beyond, the listener revealed itself, not as a creature, but as a vast shifting presence made of bark, shadow, and memory layered upon memory. It did not threaten her. It waited. Elin stepped forward and placed her hand on the glowing stone. I remember Black Hollow, but I don't belong to you. The symbols cracked.
A deep tremor rolled through the forest, stronger than before. The listener recoiled, its form rippling as if struck from within. For the first time, Elin felt confusion ripple through it. You were never meant to choose, Martha whispered. Elin forced her memories outward, every joy, every fear, every loss, pushing them into the forest without binding herself to it. The air screamed as the pact twisted, reshaping itself under the strain. Far away, Black Hollow felt it. Windows shattered, church bells rang on their own. People stumbled into the streets as the ground shifted beneath the town. The forest edge surged forward, then stopped, roots freezing in place as if restrained by an unseen boundary. The listener surged again, desperate now. Elin staggered, blood trickling from her nose, but she did not fall. She held on to one final memory, the sound of her mother's voice telling her she was more than what others expected. With that, the stone split in two. Light burst outward, blinding and absolute. The listener let out a sound that was not pain, but loss. Its presence fractured, scattering back into the forest, no longer unified. When the light faded, the woods were quiet. Not the suffocating silence from before, but something looser, untethered. Martha approached slowly. You broke it, she said, but not cleanly. Elin swayed. What happens now? The forest is no longer bound to the town, Martha replied, and the town is no longer hidden from the forest. Elin looked toward where Black Hollow stood, vulnerable and exposed. She realized then that survival had been traded for something far more uncertain: change. Black Hollow faces the aftermath of Elin's choice, and she learns what it truly means to live when the darkness no longer has rules. Morning came to Black Hollow without ceremony. No bells rang, no birds announced the dawn. The town woke slowly, cautiously, as if afraid that movement alone might invite punishment. People stepped outside their homes to find the forest exactly where it had always been, close, watching, but no longer pressing inward. The missing never returned. No bodies were found, no answers offered. The woods kept what it had taken, but it did not ask for more. Elin stood at the edge of town, facing the trees. She felt different now, not hollow, not broken, but lighter in a way she couldn't explain. The constant pull, the whisper beneath her thoughts was gone. The forest still existed, but it no longer lived inside her. Martha joined her, eyes heavy with exhaustion. "The elders say the pact is over," she said. "They also say we're on our own now." Elin nodded. "That's how it should be." Life in Black Hollow changed quickly. Crops failed and recovered without warning. Storms struck harder than before, but passed faster too. The town was no longer protected, but it was no longer imprisoned. Some people left, others stayed. Elin remained long enough to help bury the past properly. The ruins in the forest were cleared. The marked trees were left untouched, their symbols fading naturally with time. No one tried to name what had once lived beneath the roots. Some things, Elin understood, didn't need to be remembered to lose their power. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Elin packed a small bag. The road beyond Black Hollow stretched open and uncertain, but it no longer frightened her. Before leaving, she turned back toward the forest one last time. The trees did not move. They did not follow. But as Elin stepped onto the road, a breeze passed through the branches, carrying a sound that might have been wind or might have been acknowledgement. She never looked back again. Years later, travelers passing near where Black Hollow once stood would say the land felt strange, not cursed, not safe, just awake. A place where choices mattered more than promises, and silence no longer hid the truth.
And if you listen closely, they say, the forest still remembers, just not in the way it used to. Some darkness is born from monsters, but the most dangerous kind is the one we choose to live with. If stories like this pull you in, stories buried in history, fear, and forgotten truths, then subscribe to Canon of Darkness. New dark tales are waiting, and the next one may be even closer to home. The story ends here, but the darkness never does.